Hello, I hope everyone is doing well and able to navigate the course okay. I just wanted to go over concise writing and audience, which was the goal of Module 1. I've been enjoying reading some of your posts on your introductions, especially, and I even actually someone did submit their this, I believe, essay, so that was really very touching. So I look forward to working with you. Um, I honestly just recorded this video, but then got interrupted. So I'm redoing the whole thing, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. So again, the outcomes for this was concise writing and wordiness and writing for a particular audience. And although that was the emphasis for this module, it's really sets the tone for the whole course. So these are important for all throughout the whole, as I said, each module, you'll be, you know, uh, making sure that your word choice is economical and you're not using extraneous words and weak phrasing that if you send a correspondence to a supervisor or to some colleagues and you want a response, you want to make sure that your statements are strong and confident. And so these skills are very important. Okay, so let me share the screen. I'm actually going to stop the video just for a second while I bring up the PowerPoint. So bear with me. Okay, so here we are. I'm actually going to go back because again, it's interrupted, so I have to redo it. So writing concisely and economically, sorry. And you might be wondering what that means, but it's basically just cutting the words out that we don't need, those extraneous extra words that kind of weigh your statement down. So the first thing you do, well, not the first thing, but one of the areas you want to be aware of are the qualifiers. We use a lot in our conversation, informal conversations with each other. We use, definitely, perfectly, absolutely. These are just terms that we're used to using, we're accustomed to it. So when we write, they wind up in our writing as well. But it goes unnoticed in our speech mostly, unless you're, giving a really important speech. And as you know, if you took public speaking, you want to avoid weak statements as well. So your speech should be equally as confident and strong as your writing. But I'm going to say that you do have this extra time when you're writing to pause and to think and to choose your words. So if you don't have a prepared speech, if you stand up at the podium, chances are you're going to be using more colloquial language and more fillers. And that just happens. But when we're writing, we have more time, so we can actually choose our words and be more precise. So although we believe it intensifies our feelings for a thing, when we're talking, we'll say, you absolutely need to read the instructions, but when you're writing, it actually weighs down the statement and makes it weaker. So I gave you some examples. I'm perfectly okay with the time change. Now, if you were to email that to a supervisor or, to the group, say your staff, it sounds fine. It's very friendly, but the time change is fine, is quicker. And it says to me that, there's no doubt in your mind. It says to me, you're perfectly fine with the time change, but you don't have to use the word perfectly, okay? Because the time change is fine says it all in a shorter amount of time. The next example, it is absolutely imperative we conduct our meetings in a more civilized manner. And then the revised version is, it is imperative we conduct meetings civilly. As you can see, we have less words. The message being conveyed is the same, except it's said in a fewer amount of words, and it's actually stronger that way. So you can make a stronger statement, a more confident statement, non-negotiable kind of a statement with fewer words. So again, economize your language. If you think of it like a budget, you use your funds sparingly. Well, on the same note, you would want to use your words sparingly. So you're going to budget your words and decide which ones are the most important that will, send the message that you want to send. You have to consider your audience. Who is this correspondence going to? What is your actual purpose or intent? You want to cut the words out that you don't need. So after you write a message, I'm going to say to you, whether it's an email or whatever it might be, you always have to proof it. You have to go back and make sure that you don't, well, first of all, make sure that your punctuation, it's reasonably free of errors and there's no, you'll see on the next slide, I actually spelled a word wrong. So you want to make sure that, all your I's are dotted, that your terms are spelled correctly, things like that. So examples, if we are to understand the motivations, and it looks like I have two thes there too. That's strange. I didn't even catch it the first time. If we are to understand the motivations and obstacles of our employees' work ethic, we will need to sit down and painstakingly brainstorm ways to measure their productivity in a transparent fashion while respecting the employee's privacy. Now, well, aside from the two thes there, it sounds okay. And if you were to read this message, it's a mouthful. It sounds like a lot. And it's going to take you longer to process what the person's trying to say. And that, honestly, if you think of it this way, people have time constraints, and, time is money. And they might have like 50 emails they have to sort through, and they have to prioritize what they need to respond to. And if they read something and it's not making much sense, or they're not understanding what your intent is, they might just go to the next email and say, oh, I'll have to look at this another, I'll look at it tonight or tomorrow. And so you're not going to get the response back that you want in as timely a fashion as you might want it. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So as you can see in the simpler, more concise version, in order to examine the employee's work ethic, we will convene on whatever date. It's always a good idea to give a date. If you're not sure, then you could say we will convene on a time convenient to you, or it's always probably better to give, because then you're going to get a back and forth kind of thing, unless you're very open and you can, you're available anytime, which is unlikely to happen. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is make sure that you are specific with a particular date and a time. To discuss possible methods aligned with best practices. So you can see what I did is, if we are to understand becomes in order to examine the employee's work ethic. That's all I have to say. I don't have to mention motivations and obstacles of our employees' work ethic. If you're going to examine a work ethic in an employee, then it's presumed that that's what you would be looking at, the motivations of the worker and what obstacles are impeding their ability to move forward. So you don't have to say it all. You can just say, examine their work ethic. We'll convene, and then, instead of sit down, you want to be more formal. So you want to try to avoid like idiomatic expressions and just state things more precisely and specifically. So we'll convene on the date to discuss possible methods aligned with best practices. So there, with best practices, that encompasses all the transparency, the employee's privacy. All best practices are everyone most staff and supervisors and corporations and businesses, they all understand what they have a general knowledge of best practices. And if something is aligned with best practices, you can be assured that it's everything is, done legally and the way that it should be done. So here's my typo. I have combing, abstract, and concrete. It's supposed to be combining. So I'll make sure that's fixed. This will be in Canvas. I'm going to post this, so I'll make sure I fix that before I post it. So what we do sometimes also is we will just leave the audience hanging. So I'll get a message and it's just presumed that I know what they mean. And even if we had a prior discussion a week ago, I've got other things going on and I'm not going to remember. So you want to make sure you're as specific as possible in your writing. So a way to do that is when you have something abstract, which means kind of, it's not so tangible, right? It needs more, it requires more. So the manager's requested flexibility. So say I talked to you a few days ago and we talked and and I already, wrote a letter stating with, the manager's request to have flexibility with their schedules because it's been an ongoing problem. It doesn't matter. I still, when I'm sending a correspondence, I need to be specific about what I want to say. And all the information should be included. So the manager requested flexibility with their current schedules, even though it seems redundant to say it again, even I just, we've already sent a letter, talked to you a couple of days ago. It doesn't matter. When you're sending a correspondence in writing, all these things need to be specified. Because this supervisor might be sending it to their supervisor or someone above them, and they're not as familiar, so they might be sending a whole trail of correspondences, and so managers requested flexibility is too vague. The next example, the supervisor is on board. So again, if I'm responding to some, we already had a prior discussion, and I was, it was my job now to speak to the supervisor and see if that date and time is okay. So it's not going to be enough to just say the supervisor is on board, because they're going to need to remember, have more information. Maybe they got distracted and they're not sure what you're saying. You can't assume that people know what you're talking about, even if you've already talked to them about it before. The supervisor's on board with the revised mission statement. There it is. It's indelible. You typed it, it's there, it's documented. And it's a good way to cover yourself too. So you never know what can happen with things in business. So you want to make sure that you're as precise as possible so that if things do come back to you, you do have evidence of the email that you sent. Meetings held in the morning are ineffective. Again, another example. It's not specific enough. So if I received this, I'd be wondering, that means I have to now inquire more. That's going to be more emails back and forth or more correspondences, more time. So it's best to just be as specific as possible. Morning meetings are ineffective as the afternoon staff is not in attendance. Okay. So you have your abstract, which is leaving the audience hanging because they don't have anything tangible. They need the tangible too. Combining both of them is a much more efficient way of writing and getting your point across. So, and then also you want to go for specific and avoid big or good words. Use specific terms to convey your message best. So examples I give you are, the problem is too big to handle at today's meeting. I would say was, I don't know why I put is, but well, no, either way. So in the future, if you're going to be having the meeting, it sounded a little strange. The problem is too big to handle at today's meeting. Again, you want to be specific. So you're going to change big to complex, because now when you're saying it's too big, it could mean anything. It's very general. Big isn't specific enough for me. When you say it's complex, that means there's different things going on with this particular issue. That means that there's a debate about it. So not everyone's in consensus. It starts to lead me into a more understandable kind of direction in my understanding of that statement. So if the problem is too complex to discuss in a limited amount of time. So now I understand that we need to, I need to now schedule another meeting with more time allotted for us to discuss the particulars. The project looks good, Sophie. Now, if poor Sophie on the other end is just thinking, okay, what does that mean? Maybe she worked the last 2 months on this project and she gets this from her supervisor. So, you want to try to be as specific as possible out of fairness to Sophie. And so that she doesn't lose her motivation. It does happen where, employees they're working hard and they're trying to, meet deadlines and juggle a lot of things. And so you want to give rewards where they're due and let them know that they're on the right track. So the project is intriguing in the way you describe it, Sophie. Now Sophie's excited. She's going to go out and celebrate because she knows that this is probably going to go further if it's intriguing. So you want to, it's all in the intent. It's the message that you want, and you have to think about the audience and how they'll receive what you're saying or what you're writing. Word choice is major. So, and I gave you some examples. Your average writer will use words like shoes and equipment. A better writer will use cleats and catcher's mitt. It sounds simple, but honestly, the more general you are, then the more plain your writing is, and the less chance you're going to have of somebody understanding precisely what you want them to, with a message. They're not going to get it as quickly, possibly, So an average writer will use common words like said, came, had. A better writer will use stated, arrived, acquired. It just, these are stronger verbs. What you need to do too is use a thesaurus. You can get an app right on your phone, and for synonyms, if you can't find the right word. Writers use a thesaurus. That's what they do. The best writers around will search and hunt for just that right word. They'll revise a statement repeatedly to get it right, to make sure that whoever's on the receiving end will understand their intent the right way and not misconstrue their message. So I just gave you some examples here: gleaming instead of very shiny, beguiled instead of tricked, bitter instead of bad tasting, melancholic instead of sad, inefficient instead of hard. So it's very easy to default to words we know, and just easier words and plain words. We hear them in the media all the time. Because there's an assumption that if something's worded in a more sophisticated way, then the people won't hear it right, or they won't understand. And so they'll lose interest, or they won't hear what you're saying when you speak or when you write. But I'm here to tell you that it's best to use more sophisticated words to get your message across. Vary your word choice. So you don't want to be repetitive. If you've already used a word, use something else. Use a thesaurus to figure out what other word to use if you can't think of one. it's understandable. We have, if you're taking 3 other courses or you're working full time, you've got 4 kids at home or whatever it might be. And you're very busy. You have a lot other things going on. So it's easy to default or just reuse the same words. But again, your word choice is an important factor. So again, instead of smart, you can use talented, ingenious, resourceful, shrewd. I mean, there's just innumerable words that you can use. Instead of angry, irate, fuming, raging, indignant, furious. Instead of good, use adept, productive, clever, and efficient. Example, the employee came into the office and seemed very mad. She started yelling at all of us and said she was quitting. And the revised version, the employee entered the office and was irate. She said, and you would use what she said. So if I was giving you information about what happened when I say I was a witness and I witnessed an employee coming in and acting belligerent or irate, then you want to make sure that you're not speaking in general terms, that you're using the most precise language as possible. And you want to make sure that you actually use the exact words that the employee used, so it's not misinterpreted. Okay, that's it. Up here. All right, so hopefully that was helpful to you. Again, I'll be making more videos on as things go along on particular concepts, and I hope I hope you'll keep these ideas in mind. And again, I'll post the PowerPoint up in Canvas so that you can return to it with that word fixed. And I think that's about it. I look forward to more of your posts, and your essays will be coming in. This, I believe, if you have any questions about that. I'm going to be trying to make videos each week. So, to go over some more concepts that we run across. And with the online courses, it's definitely helpful to hopefully to make the videos for you and some extra support wherever I can. Okay, I hope you all have a great weekend and enjoy, have a few laughs, take a break here and there. And until next time, take care.